10,000 hours is a crazy amount, and this guy has that many playing Scout only, which is more than some pros. We're going to look at how good he is, what he does different, if he's the best scouter in the world, and then look at some ESEA Advanced players trying to counter him. But first, a message from our sponsor. Before we go any further, I want to thank the sponsor for this video, Leadify. Leadify is an AI coach that allows you to improve faster by analyzing your faceit or matchmaking games and giving you insight into your weaknesses as well as personalized training. Leadify has a state-of-the-art rating system. Rather than trying to analyze your performance with an outdated rating based primarily on kill-to-death ratio, you can use Leadify's rating based around the impact your kills have on your team's chance to win rounds. If you want to go in-depth, you can go to your match page where you can see that I suck, but I can go deeper as well and get into a round-by-round breakdown of where I messed up and where I did well. Anyways, Leadify is free to use, so head to the link in the description and give it a try. First thing to understand about the Scout is that the Scout is terrible, but it's also pretty damn fun to use when it goes well, because you can buy it every round, you can play it super aggressively, and you can jump scout people. And back in 2015, you could jump scout people a lot more effectively. In fact, it was borderline cheating because your hitboxes were completely broken, and of course it took Valve over a year to fix it. Unsurprisingly, this is when our 10,000 hour Scout player started playing. Who could have guessed? The most surprising thing I learned from him is that the Scout plays a whole lot more like a rifle than an AWP. While Scouter can hold angles, a major key to using the Scout is actually to not hold angles. It's a whole lot easier to hit headshots when you peek into them than the opposite, and that's a huge part of his playstyle. In fact, when you see someone like Simple pick up the Scout, one difference you might notice is that oftentimes that Scout will be used more like a mini AWP than anything else. There's nothing wrong with that, but it can be a problem when they know it's coming. Using a Scout like a rifle looks a little more like this. But actually it looks a little like this, where you're trying to peek out onto your opponents as much as possible, hit some nice shots, but most importantly, make sure that you don't die immediately when they peek out on you, which means oftentimes making some ridiculous peeks that your opponents simply can't expect and will never see coming. Like this peek, for example, which is insane, and I actually managed to replicate it myself. Now, it would be fair to say the Scout relies heavily on aim, but I saw a clip earlier that reminded me of something. This guy trying to fucking Zeus me, I jumped over it. Easy. There's actually several Scout-only players that also only play Dust 2, and Anatic is one of them. And there's a lot of reasons they like Dust 2. A lot of them. A lot of them. But seriously, the map makes a massive difference with the Scout. And Dust 2 has everything a Scouter could want. It has long-range angles, double doors, jump scouts on the A bomb site plant, double doors, plenty of fallback options, and double doors. I kid, but I've played against these guys on Dust 2, and they actually dominate middle. And not only because of spams at the beginning of the round. And that's why a normal round for a 10,000 hour Scout player looks kind of like this. Nobody really wants to fight him in mid, so he doesn't get anything early. They smoke Xbox, he spams it, and then he'll throw this molly, which is actually a really cool molly to stop them actually running up cat. Eventually, someone's going to try and cross mid doors, and it's going to go really poorly for them, and then he actually jump scouts the planter 3 times through the box. Of course, it doesn't always work like that because the very next time he tries to do it, they're ready and he dies. But of course, there's a reason this is one of Stewie2K's most famous clips. In fact, Stewie was pretty insane at this in general and did it in pro matches as well. But even Stewie had some trouble playing against Scouter.
Fuck you, stairs.
Yeah, he needed to go. This kid's a
That guy's just scouts all day, huh?
He's actually insane.
Triple. God damn it. Fuck this online scout bullshit.
And of course, that raises the question, how does he compare to the pros? So I asked the community.
Who's the best scouter in the world? scouterCS.
Simple. Saibu.
Phantom Lex.
I think it's a guy named Scouter.
Who's the best scouter in
Well,
the
yeah,
world?
probably fucking Stewie, dude.
Oh yeah, he was nuts. But who's right now the best scouter? Zaiwu, Simple. Who's scouterCS?
Top pros could be better mechanically, but there's more to it, because they usually use the scout against bad guns or as a surprise, but when they know it's coming and you get hard countered, you have to come up with creative solutions, like buying an op once in a while, and then trading it to your teammate to get the scout back. Or playing close mid with a 5-7 because your opponents are trying to swing on you and trade on the scout. Or when someone tries to counter you with your own gun, the solution is to shoot them in the head. There's a lot of things that separate a 10,000 hour scout player from pros that just pick up the scout. The jump peek I mentioned before is probably the most obvious, and it's actually really easy to do. Okay, actually I lied. It is super hard, but the idea is if you jump straight up in the air with the scout, you're actually nearly fully accurate at the peak of your jump. So if you combine the two and counter strafe mid-air, you can stop at the peak of your jump and be almost fully accurate. Scouter makes it look easy. Okay, he makes it look easy.
Alright, he's better than me.
The same shit to me.
He also does this jiggle to get his opponents to stand still and make them easier to shoot in the head. And this clever peek out middle to lower tunnels on Dust 2. Now if we look at ZywOo, he had 79 scout kills last year and 62 were on Dust 2 or Mirage. Only 2 were on Vertigo. And if we look at Simple, he doesn't play Vertigo. Apparently, this is by far the hardest map to scout on, and it actually makes a lot of sense why pros wouldn't buy a scout on this map because most angles are incredibly close range, which means if you miss a shot, you're almost definitely going to die. Or if you hit them in the body, you're still probably going to die. Pros can just use other guns, but if you play scout only, you have to figure something out. Now, based on everything you think you know about the scout, you would expect an experienced player to play A and try and take a lot of shots at range, but as it turns out, A kind of sucks for the scout because they can rush you very effectively, then you have to fall back to jump up, which can get mollied, or heaven, where you can get spammed through a wall. So the solution is to play as the B anchor. And it actually works pretty well, specifically because of this box on B site. And there's really no special explanation for it. It's just a really hard spot to deal with, and it allows you to get lots of peeks off to tag people with the scout with safety right beside you. Similar spots might be triple on Mirage or quad on Cash, or even double door. Now, Nuke doesn't work for other reasons. But the biggest problem for the scout is good players, because if you miss a headshot and your opponent has good enough aim to kill you before you unpeak, you're gonna have a really tough time. But to test this theory, I sent in Austin and 3 other players undercover to counter him. But first, he had to learn the way of the enemy. Play scout only for a single game. He rage quit. Now their match ended up on Vertigo, and we'll start with round 1. You can't buy a scout on round 1. We'll start in the second half. The first thing that usually happens is 1 or 2 players try to hunt down the scout and shoot him in the head. And it usually goes a little something like this, which is someone gets tagged, tries to run away, and dies. And then the other player probably dies too. Now, one of the more effective scout peeks is this one here, where you can get a shot off and it's hard to get hit in the head. But if you know that he goes for that, you can peek him with an op and get the kill. But outside of that specific peek, because of the move speed, it's actually surprisingly hard to deal with a scout as an opper. So I asked Austin himself what the next plan was.
Basically, at this point, we just know he's scouting every round, so we're going to try to run it down at him. The scout's not really going to be able to get more than 1, even if he hits all of his shots. The only real way that that's going to happen is if we give him the chance to do it by taking 1v1s, or if we get scared of the scout. So I'm just going to run through this molly that I probably would respect if he was rifling, and he's going to get stuck towards double here. If I was any better, I would have just killed him right here, but unfortunately I didn't. He can't hide double forever either, and with the scout, there's really no way he's getting out of here, and yeah.
Now that's a great way to win 1 round, but the question is, can you do it consistently? No. The very next round, they try to do basically the exact same thing, but this time Scouter brings a teammate over for support, and because they get stuck up trying to fight that teammate, he manages to get 3, nearly 4 very nice kills. By the end of the game, although Scouter lost, he actually managed to top frag for his team and nearly get the most ADR in the server. Scouter would be the first to admit that scout only is a pretty big nerf. In fact, he says he tried to play normal for a while, but it wasn't fun. And CS is a game for fun, so why not? Now, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and check out this other video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy.